So, climate smart livestock. This is a new term which is discussed very oftenly nowadays. Very commonly, we come across the term which is climate smart agriculture. Talking about climate smart agriculture on priority basis, we focus on resilient agriculture. Resilience to what? Resilience to climatic parameters. It is well known to all of us that nowadays climatic parameters are fluctuating day by day. There is change in pattern, there is shift on pattern, either be seasonal or say like temperature or rainfall means each and every climatic parameter is shifting or changing day by day. Therefore we talk about climate smart agriculture. Similarly, we should also discuss about climate smart livestock. Why? We all know that all living and non-living components are directly or indirectly related to nature and various phenomena and various parameters of nature. Similarly, animals or cattle are or livestock are also related with directly related with climate change. Livestock is also vulnerable to climate change. For example, increase in temperature will have an severe impact on uh, physiological behavior of animals. And if there is continuous change in temperature, the lactating period, reproduction period, and various stages during reproduction may hamper. Therefore, we discuss about climate smart livestock. So, coming to the topic, the FAO has defined climate smart agriculture as one that sustainably increase productivity. So there is increase in productivity. Second is enhance resilience, that is adaptation and mitigation techniques. Then reduction or removal of greenhouse gases, that comes under mitigation. And the last one is enhances achievements of national food security and development goals. So we all know that UN has developed some goals, development goals. Several parameters are there in those goals, say like leading towards economic development, educational development, personal health and hygiene, access to basic amenities, similarly food security, and many other things. So we all are well known that how these development goals are nowadays used as development indicators for improving the socio-economic condition of the citizen of all countries. Additionally, talking about food security, to in order to maintain a proper food security, we should think about climate smart agriculture, including climate smart livestock, because this changing paradigm of climate will definitely have a severe impact on livestock sector too. Once it is impacting negatively, there will be the first thing which will be hampered is the productivity. It is also well known in developed countries like India, the number of livestock are too many. We have the maximum number of livestock in globe. But when we come to the point of productivity, we are not on the top. The reason is we are not ongoing through climate smart livestock rearing policies and practices. So we require to be climate smart. Talking about sectoral trends of livestock, livestock production provides on average 17% of food calories and more than a third of protein to human diets. So total 17% of food calories comes from livestock production or livestock sector. Over 35% of overall cereal use with cattle consuming over 1 billion tons of grain each and every year. Next is consuming almost 60% of the global biomass harvest and dominating the agricultural nitrogen cycle. So in especially in Indian scenario, we for the dry fodder, for the dry feeding items, we rely on biomass, the plant residues which are left over after harvesting and removal of grains. So nearly 90% of farmers or 90% of feeding items to the livestock comes from biomass harvest. Thus, it is dominating the agricultural nitrogen cycle. If we start cultivating fodder crops, then very less we have to rely on biomass harvest. Thus, nitrogen cycle can be maintained. Additionally, when we think of some alternative sources of fodders, alternate method of cultivating fodders through hydroponics and through aquaponics techniques, as well as generating or cultivating green fodder, recently developed green fodder, for example, sunhemp, decha, then ajola. So by shifting the trend or the shifting the type of cultivation of fodder crops, the nitrogen cycle will be managed as well as there will be less reliability on global biomass harvest. So this livestock sector also accounts for 40% of global agricultural GDP. This has been suggested by FAO that nearly 40% of global agricultural GDP contribution is from this sector. Also, it occupies 30% of the world's land surface and almost 70% of all agricultural land. So, we see that 70% of the total agricultural land is utilized for this purpose and it accounts for over 8% of global water use. So, fresh water use, the dependency is like 8% of the total global available fresh water. We know that we know the scenario of fresh global fresh water that is almost 1%, that is nearly 2% available water, total fresh water. Out of that total fresh water, only one hardly 1% is available for use. Remaining 1% is in the form of snow and in the Antarctic or similar kind of region. So out of the 1% of fresh water, only livestock sector is utilizing 8% of the global fresh water. So there is a huge dependency on uh, utilization of fresh water. So in that case, it is utmost necessary to start following climate smart livestock. For that, what all things we can do? We can go for cultivation of modern fodder crops, which requires less water. Within less time, it can be cultivated. Alternate or modern methods of fodder cultivation, like hydroponics, aeroponics, that will consume less time, as well as good quality of fodder can be cultivated, as well as less water, fresh water will be used. So this all are the major changes which has to be taken uh, in practice in order to be a climate smart livestock cultivator. So this graph is being presented by FAO in year 2009, that presents the per capita consumption of major food items in developing countries, and this study has been conducted for from year 1961 to 2005. So we can see that this black colored line is for egg consumption. So we can see that how this egg consumption is increasing day by day, especially from the year 81 to 2005. The increase in consumption rate is maximum for egg. Similarly, second one is for meat, and it has been started from the year say like 73, 75, and continuously it is increasing at a very rapid rate. This egg and meat scenario is increasing day by day at a very rapid rate. So in this case, we can see that the majority of population is now day by day growing dependency on consumption of eggs and meat products. Also, we can see that for milk products, it is quite similar up to year 80, nearly to a year 80, 81. Starting from 83, it is increasing gradually, and from year 90, 92, 93, it is slight upward direction this line is going. So in consumption of milk product, we can see that it is not much high, whereas talking about cereal crops, in between, like say like starting from year 61 to 79, it was neutral. No change was observed, but from year approx 78, 79, it has been increased a bit, and again from year 1997, it is showing a downward trend for the cereal crops. Next one is for this orange colored line is representing roots and tuber crops. So from this graph, it is very clear that the consumption per capita consumption of roots and tuber crops is declining, especially from year 79 to 79, and maximum decline is seen for the year 87, 89, and 91. Again, there is a slight growth trend is can be observed, but it can be neglected. So you can see by this graph, from the prospect agricultural point of view, there is a huge demand for eggs and meat production. So in this case, if a farmer is adopting to go for agri enterprise in eggs and meat, it can be a beneficial business, because day by day the trend of per capita consumption is rapidly increasing. So definitely in coming years there will be huge demand for eggs and meat and their produce. At the same time, we can observe that there is not a much trend in like there is almost nil upward trend in cereals and negative trend in roots and tuber crops. Slight growth is observed in case of milk and milk produce. So, talking about Indian scenario, most of the land most of the land is utilized for cultivation of cereal crops. When there is less demand, definitely the farmers are going to be in loss. Similar cases for roots and tubers. So this data is presented for year 61 up to 2005 by FAO. Some discussions are there. Between 1960 and 2005, annual per capita consumption of meat has been tripled. Three times it has been, threefold it has been increased. Milk almost doubled, and the most important or the most high demand is being observed for egg consumption, and that has been increased fivefold, especially in the developing countries. Next one is rising incomes, population growth, and urbanization have driven growth in livestock product demand in the developing country. So these are also factors which are responsible for demand in sector various sectors. So what are the expected growth of the world population? It is from 7.2 billion to 9.6 billion in 2050. It is 7.2 billion to 9.6 billion in 2050. So compared to consumption levels in 2000, it is projected by year 2030 demand for pork and egg will increase by 65 to 70%. So this is a very huge increase of demand. It will be by the year 2030, it will be demand for pork and egg will be increased by 65 to 70%. It is a huge demand. Then demand for beef, dairy product and mutton will increase by 80 to 100%. Next is demand for poultry meat may increase by 170%. This has been suggested by or recommended by researchers, that is Robinson and Posey, in year 2011. Then global production of meat is projected to be more than double to 465 million tons in year 2050. Then milk production is expected to increase by 80% to 1043 million tons. This estimation has been done by FAO in year 2006. So, what is the impact of climate change on livestock? As I discussed earlier, there is a huge negative changes due to change in climatic scenario. Several examples I have given. Suppose we take a single component, say like if we take rainfall, we all are observing from several last several years that there is a shift in rainfall in terms of intensity, in terms of duration, in terms of season. So once there is change in precipitation, definitely there will be change in cultivation of crops, including fodder crops, productivity, production, quantity, quality, everything. So once there will be change in the feeding items, definitely it will hamper the animals who are going to consume it in terms of nutrition, in terms of quality, as well as in terms of quantity. Secondly, if we take temperature, this temperature will affect the crop cultivation as well as the behaviors, physiological or psychological behavior of animals also. So once there will be change in physiological and psychological behavior of animals, definitely there is going to be change in the production. Either it is meat production, egg production, or milk production. Similarly, if we take another components like sunshine hours, wind speed, humidity, these all climatic parameters will have directly or indirectly impact on animals. So on majority basis, global warming is the cause. That is, climate change is the effect. And climate change directly affect several things like health, reproduction, nutrition of the animals, and the change in health, reproduction, nutrition of animals will result in poor performance. Poor performance of what? Poor performance in productivity. It can be meat production or milk production or egg production. Next one is inferior product quality. So change in health. So firstly, change in climate will affect the health, the reproduction, nutrition of animals, and that will change the quality of product. So both things will be hampered, quality as well as quantity. And at the last, there will be outbreak of novel diseases. Several diseases will outburst, and when there is disease in the animals, automatically productivity or there will be loss to the owner. So these are the major impact of climate change, which is going to be hampered in, which is going to be occurred in on the livestock in coming years. Even if we take the scenario of present condition, there are several diseases nowadays, viral diseases, several communicable diseases which are nowadays occurring in the livestock, and a huge budget is invested for the medicine and health point of view in the livestock. If we talk of commercial livestock farming, a proper doctor or a veterinary doctor is required, or the owner, the dairy owner or the livestock owner has to be in contact or has to hire an uh, livestock health expert in order to maintain and manage all the vaccines and all the medicinal things. So we see that no need to go further in future, but present scenario also we are facing several negative impact of climate change on each and every sectors, including livestock sector also. So next are some direct and indirect impact of climate change on livestock production system. So talking about direct impact on grazing system, there is increased frequency of extreme weather events. So when there is change in extreme weather events, that is going to hamper the animals directly as well as indirectly also. Then increased frequency and magnitude of droughts and floods. So whenever there is drought and floods, that will directly impact the animals. Productivity losses, how that will be physiological stress due to increase in temperature and change in water availability may increases or decrease according to the reason. So availability of water is a major thing which is going to directly impact the livestock sector. For the case of non-grazing system, change in water availability may increase or decrease according to the reason. So that will hamper somewhere in positive as well as in most cases it will hamper negatively. Then extreme weather events that will impact less acute than for extensive system. Talking about indirect impacts on livestock due to climate change. So agroecological changes and ecosystem shifts leading to alteration in fodder quality and quantity, then change in host pathogen intersection interaction, resulting in an increased incidence of emerging diseases. The disease epidemics may also occur. For the non-grazing system, increased resource prices like feeding costs, water and energy, price will increase. Disease epidemics may come. Increased cost of animal housing, like for cooling system, for heating system. This all facilities to provide this all facilities or to build this all facilities, the owner has to pay a huge amount of money. So we can see by this table that how uh, the change in climate or the change in parameters of climate is going to hamper the livestock sector either directly or indirectly. As I said earlier, like even we don't need to move in future to understand this impact of climate change. But even if we observe the present scenario, nowadays also we are going through uh, several impact of climate change in all the sectors, including livestock. Several new diseases are nowadays can be observed. Therefore, new vaccinations, new treatments, new additional cost has been implemented nowadays on the owner, livestock owner. So, what will be the impact on pasture, forage, crop production, quality, and price? So, feed and fodder deficit in India. Dry fodder, there is deficit of 22%. Green fodder, there is deficit of 62%. Concentrate, there is deficit of 64%. And pasture and grassland area deficit is of 3.4%. So we can see from this data that in all the different sources of feed and fodders, Indian scenario is lacking. In the dry fodder, we are lacking for 22%, green fodder 62%, which is a huge amount. And as I said in the beginning, that when we talk about number of livestock, India comes first. But when we talk about productivity per animal, India is not on the top. The reason can be seen from this data that we are lacking only 22% for the dry fodder, but for the green fodder, we are lacking 62%. So nearly only 38% of green fodder is available for feeding the animals. So how do we expect maximum amount of productivity or milk production or egg or meat production? Definitely it will be hampered negatively. Next is concentrate, that is we are lacking 64%. That is how huge amount. Hardly less than 50% is available. So definitely this lackings or this deficit will lead towards lower productivity and thus it will lower the socio-economic status of the rural or the agri entrepreneurs who are especially working in the sector of livestock. The last one is that is pasture and grassland area. So that is not a very important and also the say like only we are lacking 3.4%. That is a very minimum quantity and that can be neglected. So fodder crop yield projected to fall by 10 to 20% in tropics and subtropics by 2050. That is uh, that is estimated by Jones and Thornton in year 2003. Next is climate change affects the yield, quality and price of forage and concentrate crops. That has been estimated by several researchers in year 2011. So moving next, this is a flow chart which presents the impact of climate change on livestock production. On majorly basis, there will be impact on growth, milk production, reproduction, adaptation, and disease occurrence. There are few food laws by Bureau of Indian Standards (BIS). We know that there are several regulating bodies which play a very important role in defining several laws, several standards, several acts, and each and every citizen of the country is responsible to carry out or to go through that kind of acts and law. So talking about food law, Bureau of Indian Standard BIS. So the Bureau of Indian Standard BIS, the national standards body of India, resolves to be the leader in all matter concerning standardization, certification, and quality. So each and every entrepreneur who is related to or who comes under these food laws, they have to get in standardized, they have to get certification, and they have to maintain the quality in order to be in the market according to the government laws and rules. So what is the main activity? The main activity is harmonious development of standardization, marking and quality certification. To provide new thrust to standardization and quality control, to evolve a national strategy for according recognition to standards and integrating them with growth and development of product and exports. So at the end, livestock contribution to environmental problems is on massive scale and its potential contribution to their solution is equally huge or large. So the impact is so significant that it needs to be addressed with urgency. Why it is needed to be addressed very urgently? As we discussed earlier, if we take a single component of natural resources, say like if we go for available water resource, that is this livestock sector is uh, consuming 8% of total livestock. We all know that globally, on a global scale, two-thirds of the area is covered with water. Out of that two-thirds, only 2% is fresh water, remaining is saline water, salt water. We cannot use that water for irrigational purpose, for feeding of human beings as well as animals, livestock. Also, we cannot use for domestic use. So only we have 2% of fresh water. Out of that 2% of fresh water, when we talk about available fresh water, we have hardly we have 1% of fresh water. Talking about the sources that are in rivers, streams, ponds, groundwater, and some part is moving in atmosphere. A remaining 1% of fresh water is in the form of snow in Antarctic region. So that 1% cannot be consumed. So now if we talk about 8% of the fresh water that is being consumed by livestock sector. Also, if we categorize the water use, agricultural sector is a major user of fresh water global on a global scale. Then comes industrial, household, and then comes industrial. So we can see that agriculture sector is the major user of fresh water, and water is a resource which once wasted it cannot be reclaimed again. It is a very tough task to recycle the water and make it fresh. So for that reason, proper management and practice is required. So when we talk about climate smart livestock, we also talk about climate smart cultivation of fodder crops. There are several modern methods which are developed by scientists, resource centers, say like Ajola, that is a wonderful that can be a wonderful and alternative source of green fodder, which can be fed not only to the cow and buffalo, but it can be fed for the poultry unit, for goatry unit, piggery unit, fishery unit, etc. So we see that how the uh, in this changing world, how the things are changing, and it is the time to react and time to adopt the new techniques. It is very sad to know that a research center in Rajasthan has developed Ajola, but even in Rajasthan, hardly 1 or 2% of farmers are there who are cultivating Ajola and feeding their animals. But they, it is well known that by consuming Ajola or feeding Ajola to the animals or livestock will increase, say, like 20% of the lacting period as well as productivity, milk production. Like the available nutrients in Ajola is more compared to the green fodder crops as well as silage. So as we have seen in the previous slides that we are lacking, India is lacking in several, uh, say like feed and fodder, and for the green fodder crops we are lacking nearly 60-62%. So from where how this thing can be managed, how this gap can be filled, the gap of 60-62%. This gap can only be managed through modern through adopting the modern techniques of fodder cultivation. So thus it is very important to rethink, to restart and adopt the modern techniques in order to avoid the negative impact of climate changes. Visualize to monitor each and every activities being at their residence area itself. Therefore, we talk about house design or farmhouse design that should be improved on. So, a farmhouse should be designed to provide maximum utility and comfort. The various rooms should be so located as to provide adequate comfort and minimum time and energy wastage in going from one to the other. So uh, we should consider three or four points that farmhouse should be designed in such a way that it should provide maximum utility and comfort for the residents. Also, the various rooms should be located or it should be designed and constructed in such a way that minimum time and energy must be utilized for going from one room to another room or from one place to another place. So easy access should be there to all the rooms and all the components. So that is we talk in the improved design of farmhouses. So talking about bedroom, a typical bedroom of 3.6 into 3 meter will accommodate two single beds of 1 into 2 meter, cross ventilation with one side exposed to the prevailing breeze is a desirable feature in design. Every bedroom should be provided with attached toilet facilities or should have an independent access to the common toilet room. Some storage space is also essential in every bedroom because the residents or the people who are going to stay in that area, in that bedroom, very commonly they have their own personal belongings and which has to be stored or which has to be or proper space for uh, keeping or storing that all items should be provided in each and every bedroom. Additionally, there should be proper arrangement of ventilation and cross ventilation. So in each and every room, especially in bedroom and drawing rooms, cross ventilation is must. If there is no proper cross ventilation, it is going to be the atmosphere is going to be say like dizzy or very uncomfortable for the people who are going to stay in that room. So therefore we talk about whenever we talk about a bedroom, there is a typical size. Smaller than that size, we should not construct the bedroom for accommodating two people or two beds. And we also talk about the cross ventilation. That cross ventilation is must in every bedroom. So this can be one of the design of the bedrooms and several other rooms. Like we can see the entry is from here. This part is veranda consisting of 3.9 meter into 1.90 meter. Then there is an entry, first entry towards the bedroom, and the size of the bedroom is 4.0 into 2.8 meter. Second entry is in the living room. Then from the living room there is entry to the dining veranda or the dining space. Similar kind of space or opening is attachment is given from the bedroom or access is given from the bedroom to the dining veranda. So the people staying here as well as here can have access, direct access to the dining area. Similarly, you can see like this bedroom is attached with a storeroom also. Also, there is a passage or opening. Bathroom is here, and then this one is the kitchen area. So by this design, some calculations are also given, like main block is 12.8 into 4.6 meter, that is 59 square meter. Then side is 6.7 into 3 meter, that is 20 square meter, and all total it is 79 square meter. Then deduction 1 into 2.1 meter, that is 2 approx 2 square meter. So when we subtract from 2 square meter from 79 square meter, it is going to be 77 square meter. So 77 square kilometer, 77 square meter of area constructed or design is for 77 square meter. So we can see that this design is very comfortable. It is very it will, this type of design if we have in the farmhouse for the residential area, for residential building, it is going to provide the maximum comfort. As well as you can see that there is opening over here, veranda, there is passage and opening over here. The toilet facility is provided at the end. So this is a very good kind of design, and from the both side there is opening, so cross ventilation will be proper in this type of design. Next is the drawing room. So drawing room, as we know that it is for social gathering, recreation. For the guests who are visiting, we take them to the drawing room rather than taking them to the bedroom or to the dining area. So the drawing room generally serves as the room for recreation and social gathering. The minimum size of the drawing room is 4.5 into 3.6 meter. The minimum size of the drawing room, that should be 4.5 to into 3.6 meter. But some people prefer to have one large drawing room of about 6 into 4.5 meter to serve as the drawing cum dining room. So there are people who wish or they prefer to have a bigger area of drawing room. So combinedly, they can use that drawing room for uh, social gathering, recreation purpose, or for visiting of the guest, as well as dining room or dining facilities are also provided within that drawing room itself. So that depends on the choice of the owner, that what size of drawing room he or she requires to be constructed. So the drawing room is best suited to be on one side of the house and should generally open into the front porch, kitchen, and one side should be the bedroom. So remember this, the drawing room is best suited to be on one side of the house and should generally open into the front porch, kitchen, and bedroom. Then wall spacing in the drawing room should have plenty of provision for natural light and ventilation. So the wall space in the drawing room should have plenty of provisions for natural light and ventilation. Earlier also I have discussed that the residential building should have proper cross ventilation facilities as well as natural light. So it has advantage whenever there will be in such room where there will be proper ventilation and flow of air, circulation of air, less say like fan or AC facilities will be required.